So what is to be done? Let me conclude by reporting what we're trying to do in the British Parliament. We set up a committee 4 years ago on an all-party basis. I do stress this is no mainstream political party as any exclusive franchise of the fight against anti-Semitism, to report on the fears of British Jews, kids being attacked in the street, rabbis being smashed over the head, daubings and desecrations of Jewish cemeteries, the swastikas on synagogues, the Jewish events that are actually attacked by extremists, and examine what was happening in a very parliamentary way, a rather dull way, a very factual way, taking evidence sessions, writing out reports, trying to winnow out that which wasn't necessarily accurate or true, and produced a set of recommendations which I'm glad to say the government is now has enacted and is seeking to enact on. And we then moved it to an international level, holding in February in London a major conference, the International Coalition of Parliaments Against Anti-Semitism, with parliamentarians and delegations from all over the world. Franco Frattini spoke from Italy, Gerd Weichkirchen from Germany, a marvellous delegation led by Mr. Cutler from Canada, others from the United States, from Australia, marvellous speeches from friends from Tunisia and Morocco, and drew up a declaration. The next conference will take place at the Canadian Parliament in 2010. Because what do? I'm a practicing politician. I'm an elected parliamentarian. That is how I can contribute with other colleagues, by inviting the congresses and the parliaments of the world to examine this as a serious problem, to set up their own all-party parliamentary committees, to report with scrupulous objectivity and accuracy what is going on and what needs to be done in terms of national legislation, national initiatives, telling the police they have to take anti-Semitic attacks seriously, telling the editors that they have to confront disguised anti-Semitism. And that is really when finally we need to take the UN and turn it into a locus of a global fight against racism, as anti-Semitism, of course, is one of the most egregious forms of racism. And that is the tragedy of the Durban sequence of conferences, that they have been hijacked, or they were hijacked certainly in Durban 8 years ago by anti-Semitic forces. Today in Geneva, or this week in Geneva, a rollback has started. If you want to make it a football score, it was Durban 1-2, Durban 2 in Geneva 4, with the goals really being scored in the form of a penalty walkout. But that nonetheless is not enough. The fact that this conference has not been hijacked, not been allowed to be hijacked by Jew hate, thanks to the efforts of UN Watch, thanks to the young students who are here, thanks to the solid political work, is a marvellous tribute. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, as somebody who isn't Jewish, for this wonderful affirmation of the centrality of the UN as a place where human rights should be raised. Do not treat the UN with contempt. I don't like a lot of what it does and doesn't do, but there isn't any other game in town. And our object should be to try and get some Latin American leaders to walk out with the Europeans. Our object should be to try and persuade friends in decent democratic Muslim countries, or majority Muslim countries where the population and the ideology is not anti-Semitic, to understand what is happening, to explain to the Asian democratic countries that they must be part of this struggle against racism and discrimination and anti-Semitism. So yes, a big political fight was won this week, and I congratulate all those involved in it. But let us not be triumphalists. The political victory, and I pay tribute certainly to the work of my own Foreign Secretary David Miliband and Bernard Kouchner in making a very clear stance on this, is there. But the political victory will be Pyrrhic unless we work to defeat and expose racism and discrimination. The racism, for example, that I have 10,000 Muslim Pakistani constituents, where I am the Member of Parliament. It's a small town called Rotherham in the north of England, very traditional proletarian place where you dig up coal and make steel. I don't know, have anybody in the audience seen the film The Full Monty? Okay, well, that was shot in my district. In fact, I was asked to audition for it, but I didn't have a big enough part, so I didn't get to star in it. And we've got many poor Muslims in Britain living in economically deprived conditions, and they are easily influenced by people who say, your status and your problems are as a result of unfairness, and in part because of bias in favor of Jewish causes or support for Israel. It's complete and utter nonsense. These guys, and I've seen them over the years, I go to mosques more often than I go into churches, they are burned up by Bosnia, burned up by the fight against the Soviets and the support for the Mujahideen, which we created in the West in the 1980s, burnt up by Kosovo, burnt up by Chechnya, burnt up by Kashmir. And President Obama was absolutely right before he was elected to say that you will not solve Afghanistan without solving Pakistan, and you won't solve problems in Pakistan without India addressing issues like Kashmir and building a different relationship with Pakistan. The president was quite right. This is what animates my constituents. They're British citizens, they want to live in their country, but they also have an identity politics that is global. And some of these Islamist politics and issues and propaganda touches deep into them, and our failure to intervene early enough in Bosnia, our failure to intervene early enough in Rwanda, our failure, it wasn't a failure, it took time under Tony Blair's leadership finally to stop the Milosevic murders in Kosovo, but still our failure on issues like Chechnya and Kashmir, and the collective failure to find any solution to the Middle East animates what these Muslim constituents of mine are concerned about, as it does many Muslim Europeans now living in France and Germany and in many other European countries. So we have to work with them, not against them, to expose racism and expose anti-Semitism. We have to say to them, honor the Holocaust Memorial Days, send your young people to Auschwitz with the school trips that under Gordon Brown, our Prime Minister, every school in Britain now sends kids to Auschwitz to understand where the Holocaust came from. We have to look at our economic system so that everybody, irrespective of race and background, has a chance to have a stake as a full European citizen in the economies of France and Britain and Germany and the Netherlands and Italy and other countries. But we also have to say to them, as we fight with you against racial discrimination, you must fight with us against discrimination against Jews, against women, against gays, against people of different faiths. Because we also have to defeat one of the most important denials of human rights, and that is the right to write. We're here in Geneva, the city where Voltaire lived close by to, in Ferney-Voltaire, so that when the clerical authoritarianism of the Ancien Regime of 18th century France would want to come and arrest him, he could jump over the border into Geneva. And one of the saddest things, one of the reasons that I am happy that the combined work of governments and UN Watch has defeated this week is the notion that a form of discrimination is that which says that if you criticize a religion, you are discriminating against it. My friends, there's no right not to be offended. And if we give up that concept, the Voltairean concept, écraser l'enfant, I will defend to the, I may disagree with what you say, but I defend to the death your right to say it. The moment we give up that, then I think the whole of our European and our humanistic and modern and Renaissance and Enlightenment culture goes out the window. So these are big issues at stake here in Geneva this week. Congratulations, that great slogan of the Spanish Civil War, no pasará, was heard again today. The anti-Semites, the racists, the fascists, the Holocaust deniers did not get their way, and it was thanks to everybody in this room that that was achieved, and I congratulate you all on it. Thank you very much.